Shah. And of course, we have been conducting this program jointly with the Rotary Club of Bombay West, and we have been successful in conducting various programs. And after the COVID-19, of course, through the virtual program, we have been getting good response. And I think today's talk is going to be one of the important talk. With this, I welcome, of course, our own person, Advocate Hiralal Sutar, and Anand Gupta ji, of course, merchant, and all the Rotary members. Thank you very much. Over to you, merchant.
Thanks, Rameshji, for those kind words. We'll now have Advocate Hiral Sutar talk to us about the Supreme Court judgment about the daughters. And yeah, Hiralji, over to you.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes.
Good morning, friends. I'll just start to through.
Hello.
Just a minute. I will have to screen share करवानी है. Share the screen. नीचे. Okay. ठीक है. हाँ. नहीं. चालू सी है. Start video. Okay. Hello, friends. Am I audible?
Yes, very much. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen, friends. Good morning. Welcome to everyone. Friends, this is the 27th month of consecutive. Our club, Rotary Club of Bombay West, has organized the layman education seminar. Since lockdown, we have shifted to webinars. Friends, today's topic is Supreme Court judgment on daughters' right to family properties and importance of will. I will present to you the highlights and impact of the Supreme Court judgment, which was recently delivered on 11th of August 2020. And my co-speaker, Advocate Darkantan Vipul Shah, will present before you the intricacies of the wills and the succession provisions. Friends, the time being very limited, Dhruv, why it is not coming? Look here. Just a minute. Next screen.
You have to click on it.
Yeah. Okay, fine. I'll have to go there only. Friends, as I said, the judgment of the Supreme Court in case of Vinita Sharma versus Rakesh Sharma was delivered on 11th August. Hindu Succession Act was amended in 2005, which was made effective from 9 September 2005, wherein the daughters in a Hindu co-partnership joint family were given right as a co-partner. Friends, before going to the subject, it is necessary for us to understand certain important terms to really understand the impact, because in a short period of 15 minutes, I have to attend to the important aspects of the judgment, and therefore I'll directly go to the important definition. These definitions are joint family, Hindu co-partnership, co-partner, joint family property or ancestral property we call it, intestate succession and testamentary succession. These are extremely important. All these definitions are not totally common. Some of them are common. So for a joint family, we normally refer to HUF, but many of the definitions may not be known to the participants, and therefore I would briefly go through the definitions. Joint family consists of all the persons lineally descended from a common ancestor and include their wives and unmarried daughters. A joint Hindu family is one in worship and hold joint the properties. I'll give an example. Mr. A, his son B, his grandson C, his great-grandson D, and great-great-grandson E, and subsequent generations are all part of the joint family. Coming to the next definition of Hindu co-partnery, which is a narrower body compared to the joint family. A co-partnery is a smaller unit of the family that jointly owns property. The property of the family is owned by the co-partnery. A Hindu co-partnery consists of a propositus, that is Mr. A in our example is a propositus, which is a starting person at the top of the, who is a person at the top of the line of descent. And his three lineal descendants, that is son, grandson, and great-grandson. That means Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C, and Mr. D. Mark that Mr. A is not included in the Hindu co-partnery, whereas he is a part of the joint family. The example will be carried forward during the talk also. Friend, the co-partner definition is very important because that is where Section 6 of the Hindu Succession Act was amended in 2005. A co-partner is a person who acquires interest in the joint family property by birth and who has the right to ask for participation of the family properties. After 2005 amendment, it also includes daughter, married or unmarried, both. Now friends, the co-partner is having a very important right of asking for the partition, as I have mentioned in the definition. Now what is a joint family or ancestral property? Co-partnership property is the one which is inherited by a Hindu. In our example, Mr. D from his father, Mr. C, his grandfather, Mr. B, and his great-grandfather, Mr. A, in our example. Property inherited from others is held in his personal right and cannot be treated as forming part of the co-partner. I'll give an example. If someone inherits the property from his mother's side, Nana, then that property will not be taking the color of the ancestral property or the joint Hindu family property. The next important definition is intestate succession and testamentary succession. And intestate succession refers to a position where a dying person dies living without leaving a will, and the property devolves as per the succession provisions of the personal law applicable to the person. For Hindus, the personal law is Hindu succession, and intestate estate is also one in which the will presented to the court was deemed to be invalid. Means if there is a will, however that will is not valid will as in terms of the judgment of the court, then also in that case the will be redundant and the succession will be as per the Hindu Succession Act or as per the applicable personal law. Testamentary succession, friends, is that succession occurs when a person dies leaving a will. Means a person who dies leaving a will behind, it is called the testamentary succession. His estate will be distributed as per the bequest in the will. Now, before we go to the Supreme Court judgment in the next slide, I would like to bring to your notice what was the amendment of 2005. That is a very, very important amendment. See, prior to that amendment, the daughter was member of the joint family till the time she was unmarried, but she was not member of the Hindu co-partnership, which is capable of holding joint property, and co-partner has a right to demand partition of the property. Friends, we have seen the definition that the co-partner has got a right to ask for the partition. This right was not given to the daughters, and particularly the married daughters. With this amendment, granted the daughter of the family status of co-partner. However, the judgments of various high courts as well as the Supreme Court itself differ on issue of effect of the amendment. That means from which date, under what circumstances, the amended provision will be applicable and the right accrue to the daughter to ask for the partition or share in the family property. That issue was taking a very serious turn, because almost all the high courts and even the Supreme Court itself in two cases gave the differing judgments, and therefore the present case is very important from that point of view, because in my view this particular judgment in case of Vinita Sharma settles the issue once for all as far as the effect is concerned. What was the issue before the Supreme Court? Right of daughter under amended law when the father was not alive at the time when the amended law was passed, granting the status of co-parson to the daughter. Friends, when the law was amended and made effective from 9 September 2005, in many cases, the father had died prior to the date of amendment. In many cases, the daughters were born before or after the amendment. So all these issues where differing views as expressed by the courts was one of the very important matter before the Supreme Court in the given case. When the final decree has not been passed in the suit for partition, whether the distribution of share can be claimed by the daughter under the amended provision of section 6. This is also very important, friends, because the exception given in the provision the exception is that if the family partition is complete from all respect, then in that case, the provisions, amended provisions will not be applicable and daughters will not be able to ask for partition of the property or share in the family property. So this was also one of the important issue before the Supreme Court. Should the partition be under registered document or final decree in view of the provision that only the registered document or the final decree of the court will be recognized by the provision? It is very important to see as to under a given circumstances, say for example, the application is suit is filed for partition, it is not taken up for hearing, the submission, the pleadings are being given, the suit is filed and preliminary hearing and preliminary decree is given specifying the shares, and in many cases final verdict has not come. So this is a very important point before the Supreme Court, wherein it has to decide as to what will be the position of the right of the daughter under given various circumstances. What is the status of oral partition of the family? This is an extremely important point, friends. Most of the time we have seen that in our case we don't go for registered partition, and many a times also we don't go to the court of law or filing suit for partition of the family properties. And therefore oral partition in most of the cases, one statistic was there that more than 85% of the cases there is oral partition. So we have also, the Supreme Court has also to decide the status of oral partition. So these were the issues before the Supreme Court, friends. And now we'll go to the decision given by the Supreme Court on all these issues. The provision confers status of co-partner on the daughter born before or after amendment in the same manner as son with the same rationality. So one point is clear that it is not necessary that the daughter be born only after the amendment of the law in 2005. The daughter may have born prior to the date of amendment or after the date of amendment. Both the circumstances, the daughter will be treated as a co-partner from her birth. The second important aspect is the right can be claimed by daughter born earlier with effect from 9/9/2005, but disposition, alienation, partition, or testamentary disposition which had taken place before 20th December 2004 will not be disturbed. So as I have already conveyed, there is a provision provided to subsection 1 of section 6 that if the partition has already taken place by way of document or by way of the decree of the court, then in that case, that particular partition will not be disturbed and the daughter will not have a right to ask for partition or ask for the share in the property. This particular aspect is there is a cutoff date of 20th December 2004 simply because the bill for amendment of the law was presented to the Rajya Sabha on 20th December 2004. And therefore, this date is very important in case where somebody wants to claim that the partition has already taken place. Since the right in the co-partner is by birth, it is not necessary that father co-partner should be living as on 9/9/2005. Friend, the same Supreme Court in case of Prakash had ruled that the father and the daughter both have to be live at the time of amendment of the law. So in this particular judgment, the larger bench was constituted as in the present case, and it is held that it is not necessary that the father has to be alive at the time of amendment of the provision. So these are the ratios of this particular judgment. Now, under these circumstances, the most important, the mute question before us is how to arrange the partition so that the dispute in the families do not arise. The term partition should be defined and is a part of the section itself, because the section is very specific in saying that there has to be a decree or a register partition, and therefore the term partition should be defined appropriately, and for all practical purposes it should be registered or should have been effected by decree of the court. In case where oral partition is recognized, it should be backed by proper evidentiary support. Means all the three aspects are covered. The additional aspect is one can claim the oral partition, but for that the person has to give the evidentiary support, and that also proper. Simply by telling that there was an oral partition, that will not be sufficient. The evidence has to be in terms of the provisions of Evidence Act, which should be acceptable to the court of law. What we must understand for now, friends, is how to effect the partition, how to alienate the property, how to arrange the disposition so that the properties of the family are distributed amongst the co-partner, including daughters, without any kind of dispute or differences among the families and the member of the co-partner as well as members of the families. So this is how we have to proceed, and this gives us an idea. There has to be a systematic approach to the partition. It should not happen that at the end, when nothing is done, we simply claim the oral partition, which can be denied by the court of law, and there will be dispute and differences in the family for distribution of the property. Friends, finally, different interpretations of effect of the law enacted by the Parliament by amendment of Hindu Succession Act 1956 in the year 2005 is finally settled by the Supreme Court, as I have referred to in my talk. This particular amendment has inequality on issue of right of daughter and son in properties of the joint family have been removed by the amendment by substituting section 6 with effect from 9 September 2005. Another aspect is now the daughter becomes co-partner on her birth in the family, and the marriage of the daughter does not disentitle her from being a co-partner of the father's family. That the partition already taken place prior to 24 December 2004 are not disturbed by the amended law, the date on which this bill was presented in the Rajya Sabha. I have already given the reason for 24 December. Friends, to put the disputes at rest forever, it is advisable to go for partition of the joint family properties at the appropriate time to avoid any dispute amongst the members. Friends, in the given time of 15 minutes, I have done my best to bring to your notice a very important aspects of the latest Supreme Court judgment. And whatever doubt or additional questions you have, it will be my pleasure to attend to all your queries and questions during the question hours. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, Hiranalji. Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm requesting all the participants here to put their questions in the chat box, and after Advocate Vipul Shah makes his presentation, we'll go through the questions and ask the questions to the speakers. Over to you, Vipul bhai. Yes, Vipul bhai.
Yeah, good morning. Today's host and past president Shri Aslam Marchandi, President Manoj Patel ji in absentia, past president Shri Anand Gupta ji, MSWA founder chairman Ramesh Prabhu ji, and my co-speaker Hiralji Sudhar, and ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to you all, and at the outset I thank Rotary Club of Bombay West for giving me an opportunity to share my knowledge on the subject of making will. In my opinion, in this prevailing tough time of COVID, the importance of will has increased very much. You all will agree with one thing, that this is the only disease wherein at the difficult time, your near and dear ones are not allowed to be around you. And this leads to a situation that in an extreme cases, you cannot even express your wish to your near and dear ones. So in such a situation, in my opinion, making will is very, very important, because for this disease, there is no age criteria. Anybody of any age can get contracted with this disease. So with the limited time which is given to me, I will try to share some of the important technical aspects to be taken care of, and some practical tips on the basis of my practical experience with my clients over a period of a year. And with this, I will start with the presentation. On a technical part, I will just take one small definition only relating to the will, that the will is governed by in India by the Indian Succession Act 1925, and section 2H of the act defines will means a legal declaration of the intention of a testator with respect to his property, which he desires to be carried into effect after his death. So the main thing about the will is it comes into operation after the death of a person, and he can define that how his property should be distributed. In case he is dying without making a will, it is called an intestate succession, and then in that case it gets governed by the specific succession act, such as for Hindu it is Hindu Succession Act, for Parsis, Christians it is Indian Succession Act, for Mohammedans it is their Sharia law. So in every act is different, and there are different provisions under act for distribution of the asset of a person. So in my opinion, it is utmost important that a will should be made to avoid any disputes in the family. As you all will agree that majority of the disputes, civil disputes in the world around is with respect to jar, joru and javarat. So that is the way where you can, javarat or the property is the item for which you can make a will. So I think people should make a will. There are certain essential characteristics of a will. There must be a legal valid declaration in accordance with law to which testator is governed. See why this is important, because the Hindu can will away his own self-acquired properties through will. He cannot will away the ancestral properties, because that is earned by him from an ancestor and not from his own effort and sources. Only thing, with the amendment, with the introduction of Hindu Succession Act 1956, the undivided share in the HUF can now be willed away. As far as Mohammedans are concerned, they are not allowed under Sharia law to will away more than 1/3 of their assets. So when the person is making a will, he should be very careful about the law and the civil code under which he is governed. As I said, the will comes into operation after the death of a testator. And one very important thing about will is it is revocable. What I mean will is revocable is many a times we think that this is not, I'm too young to make a will, or this is not a time I should make a will, I can carry it forward after some time because I have some another properties to purchase and all that. In such an event, it is not that the will once made is forever. Will is a document which you can change n number of times. There is no limitation also that you can change it once, twice, thrice. Whenever you want to change a will, only thing you have to take a care that while making a new will, you have to very specifically say that you are revoking all the wills which are made earlier. So that is also one of the thing which people generally are not aware, and they feel that, oh, once I make a will, I may not be able to change it and all. Another important thing about the will is the declaration which must be with respect to absolute disposal of the property. Many times people feel that you write generally in a will that I bequeath this to my wife and after that it goes to my son and all that. In that case, the bequeath is not absolute. So what is important is that the bequeath should be absolute. One should be very specific that after my death it should go absolutely to my wife, so that she gets the full right into the property and not only the life interest, because it has a very large repercussion with respect to the enjoyment of that property in future. Again, who can make a will? A person of sound mind who is at the age of 18 years and who are competent to contract. Those all can make a will. Here, one point I would like to mention is if an unmarried person is making a will, after his marriage, that will becomes void. So he has to make a new will. So he has to be very careful if an unmarried person is making a will. A married woman can make a will. Deaf, dumb, or a blind person can make a will. Insane person can also make a will during his lucid interval. No will can be made by a person while he is in such a state of mind that he does not know what he is doing. For example, in intoxication or illness or any other cause. Suppose somebody is under the effect of intoxication, and at that time if he is making a will, that will is not valid, it's a void will. What are the procedures and essentials for executing a valid will? Will can be executed on a plain paper or a stamp paper. Normally, people have a feeling that I should make a will on a stamp paper, I should register it. There are no such rules and regulations with respect to will, because will can be made on a plain paper and there is no need for any stamp paper, because it does not require any stamp duty to be paid under any particular stamp act, either Indian stamp act or a law governing the stamp duty of individual state. So it can be made on a plain paper. Appointment of at least 2 executors and to take their consent. Why I'm saying there is, see, one can make a will without appointing executor also. He can appoint 1 executor also and 2 executor also. In the situation, I'm suggesting there should be 2 executors, because sometimes you appoint 1 executor and either he at a later date, either he is also not alive, or he migrates to out of India, or he says that he is not interested in becoming the executor. In that event, if you have a 2 executors, practically it becomes easy. Otherwise, it is not a mandatory to have 2 executors. It is advisable to have 2 executors. Another thing to be taken care of is to take a fitness certificate from the family doctor. So whenever a person is making a will, he should take a certificate from the doctor, because many times when the will is challenged, the one of the point which is challenged by the person is about the mental state. Sometimes someone says that he was not medically fit and he made a will under some threat or coercion or under some effect of some person. So in that all cases, the person should get a certificate from a doctor that he is fit to make a will. To prepare and annex a will, list of various movable and immovable properties. With respect to immovable properties, he should define properly that which are the properties owning right now. And movable properties could be, because it's a movable property mainly in terms of investment in shares, fixed deposits and all. So he can give a general note also, and if he wants to specify, he can specify also. He has to define the beneficiaries that he wants to give what item to whom. Because if it is not defined, then it gets transferred as the intestate for that particular portion. Decide whether to give life interest or absolute bequest, which I referred earlier. many of the time people write in their will that after my death, my wife will be entitled to this property, then it will go to my son. Such type of bequest in the will gives a life interest to the wife. In that case, what happens that she is entitled to utilize the property till her lifetime, but she doesn't have an absolute right to either sell or gift or mortgage or to deal with the way she wants. So many times it is not an intent of a person, because generally people feel that I should give absolutely to my wife, that she should not be dependent on somebody, my children, on anybody, and she should be able to deal absolutely the way she wants to deal with the property. But if it is not been specified properly, she may get a life interest, and the purpose for which you have made a will may not get served. So it is advisable that you must write that the bequest is an absolute bequest. So it is a very important thing to be kept in mind. Signature, name and full address of the at least 2 attesting witness. Any will without 2 attesting witness is void. It is not a valid will. So it is an absolute necessary condition for will to be a valid, that there should be 2 attesting witness. And as a practical, I would suggest that in those the witnesses should be present at the time when the will is signed by the testator. Basically, those are the attesting witness, but it is advisable that both the witnesses and the testator are all 3 present at a time, because most of the time the validity of will is challenged, and if the witness is not able to testify that they have seen the testator to be signing in their presence, the entire validity of will is in question. Generally, what we have a system is we write a will, then I'm just talking about the practical thing. We call one of our relative or somebody and we say, hey, you please sign it, I have done it. Sometimes somebody else comes. So I would advise that the attesting witness should be generally a people younger to your age, so that in future when in your absence, you have to, the person has to testify before the court, so he is available at that point of time. So it is advisable that you make some young person and a person known to you, because if the will is challenged, the witness will be called by the court, and in that case he has to testify before the court that what exactly happened, when he saw, what was the actual situation at that point of time, whether the testator was in a proper frame of mind and all. So on a practical ground, it is advisable that you make a younger person than you to be your witness. Signature, name and full address of at least 2 attesting witness is required. Advisable to register a will. See, there is no law per se, as I said, there is no law for payment of stamp duty also, and there is no law with respect to registration of will also. It doesn't mean that will gets more authenticity by registering it. But on a practical ground, it is advisable, because if you see, once a person goes for registration of a will before registrar, generally a registrar asks him that whether you know that you have made a will, you are agreeing with what it has been written and all that. So it gives some, the probability of it, in the case of challenge, the probability of it is in the favor of validity of will is more if it is registered. It is not, I will again repeat, it is not mandatory, it is advisory. It is advisable that one should register a will. If trust is created by will, clearly mention name of the trustees, beneficiaries, terms and conditions. There is one way which somebody wants to donate majority of his things into the trust, or he wants to make a form of specific trust for a specific purpose, then he should be clear in will, and you can make a trust through will also. But there you should be very clear that to whom you want to make a trustee, who would be the beneficiary, what are the terms, conditions, etc. Which assets can be bequeathed under a will? Property which are self-acquired by the testator, as I said earlier. Property acquired by inheritance or gift and held exclusively by the testator. Share in HUF. This has been allowed after the Succession Act 1953. Transferable tenancy right. And as I said, Mohammedans can will away only 1/3 of their estate. There is one practical aspect with respect to the will to be done by Mohammedan. Sharia law does not permit them beyond 1/3, and the Hindu law has changed over a period of time with the society, but there has not been major change in the Sharia law. And practically, if you see in our day-to-day life, the concept with which this provision was made is largely not prevailing in the society. So sometimes some Mohammedans who doesn't want to be governed by Sharia law, they can register their marriage under Special Marriage Act. And once they are registered in the Special Marriage Act, they are out of the clutches of Sharia law and they are governed by Indian Succession Act. So this is a practical way out for the Mohammedans who wants to will away their entire property as per their wish. Who can be a beneficiary and legatee? No restrictions to give away property to any person as a legatee or a beneficiary. It is not that the will you can give only to your son, daughters, or your relative. It can be given to anybody. I mean, you can give it to your friend. You can give it to a person who has taken your care in your last days, or somebody who has taken good care of you whenever you are in need and all. Or if you want to give away the whole property into the charity, everything is possible. There is no restriction as far as willing away your property to anybody. The famous case in this is Priyambada Devi Birla versus R.S. Lodha, where the huge amount of property that Birla had given to Lodha, which is again a subject of dispute about the validity of will and all. Revocation of a will. As I said, will can be revoked, can be made anytime and can be revoked also n number of times. There is no restriction. Revocation by codicil or a new will. What you can do is revocation could be in two ways. One is you cancel the entire will which has been made by you, or there are sometimes some cases where you want to modify only some of the conditions, not the entire will. If you make a supplementary will giving reference to the original will with some changes the codicil, and if you feel that there has been a big change and you want to change the entire will, you can cancel that old will and make a new will. How you can do the tearing off or burning or destroying with an intent to revoke the will. When you are tearing off a will or destroying the will, there should be an intent that you want to revoke a will. It is not that the will was made and you lost it and then you are, that would not be treated as revocation. While revoking, you must specify in the new will that the earlier will dated so and so has been revoked. Accidental damage or loss does not mean revocation. That is what I meant here. What is probate? Probate is, it establishes the conclusively and legal character of the person to whom the grant is made. It is a conclusive evidence of a valid will. Probate is just a certificate issued by the High Court that the copy of the will annexed to it is a valid copy of the will. So it is required in case of will is executed or relates to immovable property situated in local limits of ordinary original civil jurisdiction of High Courts of Bombay, Madras and Calcutta. See, if the property is situated in Gujarat and a person is resident of a Gujarat, there the probate is not mandatory. But if the will is executed in a limit of an ordinary original civil jurisdiction of Bombay High Court, Madras or Calcutta, it is compulsory required to be probated. So all the properties which are situated in Mumbai and the people who are residing in Mumbai, if they are making any will for the properties, it is compulsorily required to be registered, probated. And in many of the cases, the people make a will, the housing societies are not much aware about the formalities of probate or the requirement of a probate. Sometimes they transfer the flat on the basis of will itself, which is not correct and which is not valid. If the property is situated in Mumbai, a probate is compulsory. An application is to be made to the Bombay High Court and you have to get an order for that. There is a fees for getting probate from the court. Presently for Bombay, the highest is 3% of the value of property or 75,000, whichever is higher. So presently it is 75,000 rupees. It is proposed for last couple of years to increase it to 3 lakh, but till now it has not been implemented. There is another term which people speak with respect to succession or a will is about letter of administration. As I said that in will, one should appoint executor. If a will is made, sometimes person is making a will and he doesn't appoint anyone as an administrator, then an application should be made to the court for getting a letter of administration. There are two ways. One is, there are two methods of letter of administration. One is where the will is made without appointing an executor. where the letter of administration is granted, or sometime a person dies without making a will, that is an intestate succession, and in that case the person leaves behind him lot many properties. In that case, an application should be made for letter of administration, where the entire details of the properties are to be given to the court, and then court appoints a fit person as an administrator, and he administrates the entire estate. The difference between, I said, probate is the where the executor is appointed, then it is the probate, and letter of administration is where the executor is not appointed or where the will is not made. Fees for obtaining letter of administration is same as that of the probate, 75,000 rupees. Sometimes will is contested by the family members. Generally, it is seen in family that one boy or one girl is quite attached to the parents, and sometimes somebody is not attending well. In that case, if through a will, some more property is given to one son and another son is deprived of either the whole thing or a part, then he feels aggrieved with the content of the will, and sometimes he may challenge also that at any point of time my parent would never think like this, and under some influence my father or mother has made a will, and he contests the will. Ground for contesting the will, effecting of the effect of contesting will is very harsh in India, because suppose you make an application for probate, generally it takes 6 to 8 months to get a probate. That is a situation where the will is not challenged by anybody. Everybody accepts the validity of the will, and court orders that and issues the probate. If the will is contested, that petition gets converted into testamentary suit. And once it is converted into testamentary suit, as you know, in India, we have a very lengthy court battles, and the number of years it takes. Generally, it would be more than 10 years to get settled. Until that time, that property remains in dispute only. So it is very much advisable that you be very careful while making a will and ensuring that the probability of contesting goes down. And in cases, a practical tip is that suppose you are giving something less to one boy or one child or one son or a daughter, please be very specific that why you are giving something more to one son and something less to another, so that it justifies that there is a reason behind giving something less to somebody and something more to somebody. So at the time when, even if it is contested, it could be well attended at that point of time. What precautions to avoid contesting will is, as I said, registration would, if it is contested, the authenticity would be more of a registered will than an unregistered will. It should be a properly witnessed. The language should be simple and unambiguous. Proper compliance of requirement of law should be complied with. One of the very important point to be considered is about the residuary estate clause in a will. Many times what happens, the time when you are making a will, that time either you are not having the entire assets in your name. For example, that you may be owning a house at the time of making a will. Subsequently, either you have bought a new house or you have got the house through will from your parents or a gift from someone, and that item is not specified in the list of assets which you want to bequeath. In such a situation, what happens is that the asset which you have classified or which you have described in the will would go as per the description or as per the details given in the will. You may say that X house would go to my one son, and subsequently you have bought a Y house which has not been included, or maybe you have not amended your will. So in that event, that Y house is there, that will get governed by the intestate succession. Means it will not governed by your will, but it will be governed as if it has been no will is been made for that property, and it will go as per the intestate succession law. So suppose for Hindus, it will go to equally to children and wife or a spouse accordingly. If it is Mohammedan or a Christian, it will go as per Indian Succession Act and Sharia law. So one has to be very careful, and there should be a residuary clause that if at all I become entitled to or to any asset which has not been specifically described here, It should be treated as my residuary estate, and you must say that this residuary estate should go to whom. Because if it is not been specified, then it will go as per the intestate succession. Appointing executor having a proper knowledge, as I said, that executor should be generally a person who is well conversant with some operational law and the court proceedings or some banking knowledge or so. Because if you are appointing some person who is not well qualified, he may not understand the processes, because an application is to be made to the court. Sometimes some follow-up is required with some bank or another financial institutions and all. So it is advisable that you appoint some proper person who would be able to execute your wishes. Executor is a person who would execute your wishes. So you must appoint a person you feel that is a proper person to do this. Defining assets properly in will, as I say. Another misnomer or a misunderstanding among people is between the nomination and will. People feel I have done a nomination, so there is no need to make a will. If I have nominated my son as the nominee of my flat, so he would get after my death and all. So that is the biggest misunderstanding prevailing in the market, and people feel that nomination is the one thing by which I have bequeathed my property, which is not the correct understanding. As we all know, nominee is just a trustee, and it is now a settled law by Honorable Supreme Court also, that nominee is just a trustee. He doesn't get any right into the property. It is something like if I lose my pen on a street, somebody finds it and knows that it is Vipul's pen, then he will take it and retain it as the trustee, and after and returns it to my legal heirs after my death or something. So nomination is not the same as getting right in the property. Nominee is just a trustee. Ideally, it's the nomination where you can make nomination under various law, under different. You can make nomination to your bank account, fixed deposits, shares and securities, shares of a cooperative housing society, claims under labor law, life insurance policy. These are the places where you can appoint a nominee, but that person doesn't get any right, because your ultimate distribution of that particular property would be governed by either your will or by your succession law. So on a practical tip, it is advisable that suppose you are owning 2 flats and you intend that after your death it will go to your 2 sons, and you are making a will also accordingly. So practically you should appoint nominee as the same person to whom you want to bequeath the particular property. So if you are bequeathing one flat to Mr. X, then the nominee for that person flat should also be Mr. X. So it is a practical, operationally convenient way, because society will immediately transfer the shares in his name as a nominee, and subsequently after completing probate formality, he would only become the sole and absolute owner. I would share some of the practical tips, because the time allotted to me, it's a huge and a vast subject per se. So these are the small important issues which I have given here. Now I have just made the list of useful tips for preparing a will. Some of this I might have already covered in my talk already. Ensure the will is executed when all the witnesses are present. Always keep your doctor as one of the witness, or attach his certificate for physical and mental fitness. This is very, very important. Mention time of execution of will along with the date. So that is also important, that on which date and at which time the will was executed, because if it is contested at the time of cross-examination in the court, these all small things become, or a small technical become very, very important. If due to some family issues the estate is not distributed equally among all children, or a benefit to one or more person is not granted with other beneficiaries, mention the reason for doing same. I have already mentioned. Always keep a residuary estate clause, which I mentioned. In case of jewelry, obtain valuation report of jewelry, and if possible, keep jewelry of each person in a separate box, pouch with their name mentioned. See, generally for jewelry, you may not know readily what is the value and all. So it is advisable that whenever you are making a will, if it is possible, take a valuation report, so that you have some basis for distributing, that how much you are giving to one person and how much to other, and keep it separately if possible. Understand very specifically whether you intend to give life interest or absolute bequest, which I very much mentioned. ensure that all the properties are bequeathed and there is no residuary estate clause, and there is also a residuary estate clause in the will, as it would be governed as per the intestate succession, which I mentioned. Always mention that in case of property mentioned in the will is sold or disposed of, or a new property is purchased, the same should be a part of residuary estate. So in case, suppose you make a will and subsequently you sell the flat, so it is advisable to make that bequest with respect to the item which is not in existence would fail if that item is sold at the time of your death. In current days, with the facility of taking photo in mobile phones, take a photo while signing will and attach a printout with the will. I would go one step further. I would also advise, if possible, take a video also, wherein the testator is speaking to a witness that I have my absolute senses, I have made a will. I want you to be my attesting witness, and you record that video and keep it and along with the photograph and along with your will, and inform someone or the executor to whom you have appointed an executor that there is a video also which would help too much in proving the validity of the will. Sign on each and every page of the will. If will is made on a language not known to testator, make a declaration on a last page that the content of the will has been explained in the known knowledge. Many a time what happens, some people who are not conversant with the English language or the language in which the will is made, it is advisable that there is a mention that though the will is drafted in English, it has been explained to that person. Suppose somebody is understanding only Gujarati or a Hindi and not understanding English, so tomorrow somebody can challenge that the will is made, but the testator himself only never knew that what has been written there inside. So this clause is also very important when you are making a will for a person not understanding the English language. It is advisable to register a will. However, if it is not registered, it should be duly notarized before notary public, and entry should be made in this register. I am giving all these tips only from the point of view that if at all the will is contested in future, such small precautions which are taken would be very useful at that point of time to establish the genuineness of the will. In the event if a registered will is revoked, make a specific mention in the will about the old registered will with its registration number. As I said, you can make n number of times will. So sometimes you make a registered will. When it happens that you are in a good health and you are able to visit the registrar's office and you make a will. Subsequently, you change your mind and you want to amend your will. It is not mandatory that the subsequent amended will also should be registered. But if you are revoking a registered will, you should make a very specific mention that earlier will dated so and so was registered by me by this registration number, and I am revoking this particular will. Make a separate will for foreign properties for administrative convenience and make a mention of the current will in both the will. See, this is very important. In nowadays, averagely one person of a family is out of India, and many NRIs are now investing in properties in India. It is on an operational background, it is advisable that a person should make two wills, one for the properties in India and one for the properties abroad. And in both the wills, he should make a mention that he is making two separate wills for administrative convenience. So it should not, when both would be valid with respect to the property situated there. Because suppose the property is in India, you have to make an application for property to Bombay High Court. Suppose the property is in US, you have to follow the procedure out over there. So it is advisable to have a two separate wills, but with a mention in both the wills that another will has been made for the administrative convenience. Make a will after your marriage and having a child. Since in case of a Hindu intestate succession, mother is class 1 legal heir and she gets share in the estate. This is also one of the very important things. See, in Hindu Succession Act, the property the succession goes by class 1 heir, class 2 heir. So in class 1 heir in Hindu, for a person, his mother is a class 1 heir along with wife and children. Father is a class 2 heir for a Hindu male. So it sometimes what happens in an early age, a person dies. In that event, what happens? He feels that, okay, anyway, I have only 2 daughters or a 1 daughter or a 1 son, and my wife is there, so my property is anyway going to go them. It would not be possible in case of a Hindu when a person's mother is alive. Because in Hindu, mother also becomes class 1 heir and she shares equally with the wife, spouse and wife and a children. In that event, through mother, your brother and sister would get a right. So it is very, very important that you make a will. This is also one of the important reasons why will should be made. Because if there is no will, mother will get a share, and through mother, brothers and sister would get a share. For administrative convenience, always keep nominee for movable and immovable property as the same person to whom you intend to bequeath the estate, including percentage share, which I have already mentioned. The percentage of nomination should be kept similar as proposed in the estate. So sometimes what happens, you are giving flat to two sons together, and you want to give 50% to both, or you want to give 70% to one and 30% to another. The nomination should also be in the same proportion, so it becomes operationally convenient. To obtain probate is mandatory in cases where will is executed in or it relates to any immovable property in the local limits of ordinary civil jurisdiction of High Court at Bombay, Madras, and Calcutta. So Bombay High Court jurisdiction is in Goa also. So if property is there in Goa, it is covered by this. In case will is deposited with the registrar, always inform some person about the same. Generally, you should inform the executor that I have made a will and I have deposited with the registrar. So after your death, it can be taken from the registrar's custody. I hope in the limited time which is given to me, I have tried to cover maximum. And in case any questions or anything is there on the topic, we'll answer in the.
Yeah, thank you, Vipul bhai. There are lots and lots of questions in the chat box.
Yeah.
So let me see how whether we can do justice to all the questions in a limited time that we have. Give me a few moments. I can go back to the chat box and start asking the questions.
Sudhar Sahib, now how this is with respect to will or with respect to?
Questions are all mixed questions. So any of you,
with respect to will, I would.
Yeah, you or else Sutar will have to share the questions. Okay. The first question is partition deed, whether it attracts stamp duty. Hiranalji.
Partition deed attracts stamp duty.
Yeah, see.
But make your answers as brief as possible. But there are lots of questions, and it can be justice to all the questions. Yeah.
Yeah, the partition deed per se is not the disposition of the property. Partition deed is an arrangement which mentions everything, that which property will go to whom and all. So partition deed per se is not a document of transfer of property, and therefore it is not compulsory registrable also, and there is no stamp duty except the normal stamp duty of 100 rupees or 500 rupees as a matter of MOU or agreement. There is
What
no duty
happens
on the property because nothing passes.
What happens to the self-acquired property of the father?
Yeah, this is a very important question. See, we have seen in my presentation that the self-acquired property is not the ancestral property per se, because it is acquired by the father. However, there are two options to dispose of that property. One is by will, another is there is no will, then it will be intestate succession. In case of intestate succession, the property goes to the hands of the legal heir of class 1 equally. So unless the father has transferred this property to the family ancestral property, we call it by a kind of document with the intention to transfer to the purpose of family, it does not change the nature. It remains the personal property, self-acquired property, and it goes to the legal heir of the person, either by will or if there is no will, by intestate succession to class 1 relative equally.
Another question is, if the will is notarized in the name of daughter, who is also a nominee, both parents expired, but there are 4 siblings residing outside Mumbai. What is the procedure to transfer flat located in Mumbai suburbs in the name of nominee having will? Siblings have no objection if consent letter of siblings required. If probate is required, what is the procedure, cost and duration? This is for
This is to
Yeah.
Vipul bhai or to me?
Vipul bhai.
Yeah. Vipul.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier also, that if the property is situated in Mumbai and there is a will, probate is mandatory. So the executor has to apply for the probate if the executor is appointed in the probate. And once the executor makes an application, a notice is sent to all the legal heir that an application is received for the will. And if there is no objection for anyone, you get a probate order in around 6 to 8 months time. as also mentioned, the nominee is just a trustee. So nominee does not transfer any right title interest in the property. So there is a procedure under bylaw for transferring in the name of the nominee till the time these probate formalities are getting over. But if the property is in Mumbai, probate is mandatory, and if there is a will.
Okay, there's a question for Hiralji.
Yeah.
Whether will prevail over this judgment of Supreme Court?
Yeah, now see, the question itself is vague, but I can throw some light on what may be in the mind of the questioner. See, what is the judgment? Judgment says about the effect of the amended law. And it talks about all the properties which are going intestate. It does not talk about the transfer of property by will. However, if the ancestral property or the family property is not partitioned, any person of the co-partnery, any co-partner has got a right to transfer or will out his property, his share in the property, and anything more than what he can, say for example, there are 5 legal heir of the person, he has 20% share in the joint property. He can will out 20% share only. So there is no question of, because the whole judgment is not for the purpose of will. The judgment is for the effect of the right of daughter in the family property. So either the questioner can give, I can reframe the question, or as I explained, that is a position. He reframe and give it to me.
Next question is, if a married daughter gets property as member of HUF, after the death of father, can she form HUF and be Karta of HUF for such property?
See, I will answer. See, what is a joint family property? In the definition which I had referred to, is a lineal ascendant. I had given example of A, B, C, D, and E. Daughter nowhere comes as a lineal descendant once she gets married and goes to the other family. And therefore, whatever she gets by way of her share at the time of partition of father's property, father's joint family, she gets it in an individual capacity as a self-acquired property. And it cannot be given the color of the family property unless in her husband's HUF as a member of the joint family, not as a co-partner, member of husband's family, she may have a right to give color of this property as a family property, but then there is a old judgment in case of Puspa Devi of the Supreme Court, very initial judgment, that says that the female member cannot transfer that property as a joint family properties.
Okay.
Any further
Yeah,
clarification?
this one is for Vipul Bhai.
Yeah.
What if the first and second will, only the son's name is there, and in the third will, the property is distributed in 4 sisters and 1 son? Can the will be challenged?
See, I told you very specifically that you can make n number of will, but it doesn't mean that all the earlier wills would also be valid. Will which is made last would be valid.
Yes.
So suppose initially a person would make a will that he is bequeathing this to his son. Then he feels that no, I want to change will from 2 sons to 2 sons and 1 daughter. Then subsequently he says, I don't want to give anything to any son and I want to give it to daughters only. So in all these cases, the earlier wills are revoked and the final will which is made would prevail. If it is a codicil, then whatever is the last codicil would prevail. Suppose he has given earlier to sons and then he wants to give it to the daughter, then the last will prevail. There is no question of challenging the will, because ultimately the last will which is made would be the final will. There can't be multiple wills. What I mean to say is there can be only one will which is the last one. So a person, if he made wills earlier, would not have any impact on the last will once it is revoked by making a last will. I hope it clarifies the question.
Yes.
Yeah.
I lost which question was the last one. Just a moment. Give me some time. Okay. What if the validity of will is, what is the validity of will? Is it required to be notarized? Or is it bound by duration of certain years? I think you
No,
already
I-
replied in your presentation.
Yeah, I've already covered that notary or nothing is mandatory. Only what is mandatory is there should be two witnesses, and there is no time limit. Also, will could you can make will today morning also and revoke tomorrow also, or you make will today and which will be valid till the time of your death. So there is no duration. Only thing it comes into operation after the death of a person. So there is no duration, there is no notary or anything. I have given all practical tips, which in case if it is contested would be useful. So it is not, there is no mandatory requirement of any nature except for the witness.
Another question is the will applicable to all the communities? That's
As I
one part.
mentioned earlier, that there are restrictions for making a will, because if Hindu, if his own property is there, he can will away the whole thing. In case of Mohammedans, it is 1/3. In case of Christians, it is governed by Indian Succession Act. So every community has their own civil code. So it is all subject to that civil code regulations. You can make a will. If we are making if a Mohammedan is making a will of his 100% property, it would not be valid. Similarly,
It says further says that do the Mohammedans have to also obtain probate?
no, for Mohammedan property is not mandatory.
Okay.
Aslam bhai,
Yeah.
hello.
Yes. Yes.
Once you complete this all question answer, I
Yeah.
request you to give 1 minute to Mr. Vimal Punaiya, who is a very senior person in this. Just he has to give his opinion on both the subject in 2 line or 1 minute.
Okay.
Mr. Vimal Punaiya, just get ready. This both the subject, that is Supreme Court order as well as this will. As
Okay.
our expert speakers have already given, just we would like to hear your expert opinion on that in a short. After once our question answer session is over.
Yeah. If the two witnesses are nowhere connected to the family, are random people, can the will be challenged?
No. Witness could be anybody. There is no need that the person from the family should only be the witness. In fact, the thing is, if a person is a legacy beneficiary in the will, and if he is a witness, then will is void. So one should be very careful that if you are giving a estate to your son and he is a witness to that will is void actually. So it is in fact advisable to have somebody else, generally a doctor and a lawyer or a chartered accountant or any other relative could be a witness. So
Again, this question also you have answered when you are making presentation, but anyway, I repeat it. Father has 3 sons and 1 daughter. Can he will his ancestral property to only one son? What recourse does other 3 children have?
no, as I said, what you can bequest is only the self-acquired property, not the ancestral property. Ancestral property is governed by the Hindu law. So there's Hiralaji said that the intestate success, the HUF, it will become take the character of HUF property. It will be governed by that law. So ancestral property you can't will away.
Okay, are the witnesses required
Only the undivided share in that property can be willed away, but otherwise not.
Are the witnesses required to read the contents of the will?
No, not required. There is no need that the witness should read. Only thing what witness is testifying is the testator is signed in his presence. So there is absolutely no need that the witness should read your will. So because generally will is a secret document one person makes. So there is absolutely no requirement. He has to only certify that the testator is signed in his presence. That's all.
Okay. Where a property is jointly owned by father and son, the father wills away entire property to daughter. Is this valid?
No, certainly. See, if you are owning a property in a joint name and in the agreement which you are purchasing, there has been there is no mention that the name of the son is kept only for the convenience purpose and the entire beneficiary interest is of a father. Generally, it will be understood that father and son both are holding equal share in the property.
Equal share.
What father can will away is his 50% undivided share in the property, which a son cannot challenge. But father cannot will away his son's 50% share. If at all any will like that is made, it will be void. It will not be valid.
This question is if the will is not shown now and is shown after 15 years, is it valid?
No, see, generally the time limit for will coming out with a will is 3 years. The limitation period is if suppose somebody is not aware about it and there is an extreme circumstances because of which will could not be produced In that case, it is a discretion of the court whether court want to accept it or not. Otherwise, the application for probate should be made within a period of 3 years. If there is a delay, you have to give an explanation to the court that what made you make application after 3 years period.
There's one question from Bobby NV, but it's such a long question. I'll request him to, touch base with you directly. You've already given your contact number. Maybe you can, answer this question a little later because it's a specific case that he has mentioned. So, Mr. Bobby, please get in touch with Vipul by later after whenever it's convenient for both of you. Income tax, another question is income tax aspect if the property is received by third party based on will. Income tax aspect if property is received by the third party based on will.
Income tax aspect if the property is received by third party based on will. Property is received by
Unrelated.
What is the
party.
question? Unrelated. That's okay. But what is the query actually? What would be the tax effect of that? Is it?
Tax impact, yeah.
There it will not be because anything received in through will or a succession, there is no tax on that. It would not be taxable. I understand that he is asking from that money suppose received through will, whether he is liable to pay any income tax on that.
Yeah.
I believe that is the query.
How a will should be prepared for children settled abroad? Indian laws will apply or the country where the children have settled will apply?
No, see, for as I mentioned, for movable and immovable property, for movable, the domicile of a person is applicable. For immovable, the law relating to the country in which the property is situated is applicable. So if a person is residing abroad, suppose your son is in USA and he has got property in USA also and in India also. So as I mentioned, on a practical convenience side, he should make 2 wills making reference to both the wills in both respective will, that a separate will for Indian property is made. He can make single will also, but administratively it would become very inconvenient. Actually.
Father is missing since September 2004 and there is no will. How to proceed?
So then, it is subject to that other law, it will be, it will go as an intestate succession. Suppose there is a provision that if somebody's whereabouts are not known for 7 to 8 years, it will be presumed that he is dead. And in that event, it will be treated as intestate property. So by your civil law, it will get governed. Suppose Hindu to Hindu succession or a Indian succession or a Sharia law.
Whether son has contributed entire money towards acquisition of flat, but out of his love towards parents, he has put his father's name. Can this property be willed by father to daughter or the son?
No, as I mentioned that there should be a very specific mention in such agreement. This is a very important thing because in India, we have a custom that out of love and affection or as a respect to our parent, though the entire money is paid by you, you keep your parents' name also in that. So generally, as per Transfer of Property Act, there is a provision that the right in the property in proportion to the amount contributed by you. But if nothing is mentioned, it will be treated as equal. I would go one step further. I would advise that in all such cases, you should mention very specifically in the agreement that father's name is kept for the convenience purpose only and entire beneficial interest is of the person who is making the payment. In that situation, if father is making a will, it will not be valid because father has got a title to that agreement. And in that agreement, there is a very specific mention that father's name is for convenience purpose only. So in that event, it will not be possible to will away. But if everything is silent and if you are not able to prove, then yes, definitely the father can will away. And in that case, one has to challenge and produce to the court that he had no right to will away the 50% share because the entire contribution was made by him. It would be subject to a problem actually. So it is advisable wherever such payments are made, a specific mention should be there in the agreement. So sometimes you buy from the builder and those are pre-printed agreements are there. So it is advisable you can make one supplementary page and add it to the document with a very specific mention that the payment is made by the son and he is the beneficial owner. Because it will have impact on your subsequent income tax issues also with respect to the capital gain and its investment benefit and all.
Whether the fees for probate and for letter of administration is the same?
Yeah, same. 3% or 75,000, whichever is lower.
What about if the property is leased for a long period?
Means I didn't get it. What is
If
the
the
query?
property is leased for a long period, does it have an impact on the bequeathing the property to a
No, ultimately what you are bequeathing is the ownership right.
Ownership.
No?
What
It
about the
will
right
go
of
subject to that lease. I mean, the person will bequeath it subject to that lease.
correct? What about the right of Hindu women in ancestral property, where father died before 1975 and woman was born in 1950? Women died before 2005. Is there a changes?
So I think this person Sutar Sahib.
Complicated question, not very clear.
Uh,
Okay.
should I attend to that? Aslam,
Yeah.
should I attend to that? You can repeat the question. I will.
Okay. What about the right of Hindu women
Hmm.
in ancestral property, where father died before 1975
Yeah,
and woman was born in 1950?
yeah,
Woman died before 2005.
yeah. Correct.
Is there by changes of this rule in different states?
See, the whole issue is the provision to subsection 1 of section 6, which says that prior to 24 December 2004, if the family property is not partitioned, then the right of the daughter as a co-partner will be there. In fact, all these issues, this question as well as other questions were decided by various courts, including the Supreme Court. Supreme Court in case of Damanna or like that, and another matter with the Supreme Court was having different view about the applicability or the effect of the amendment. As far as daughter is concerned, it is very clear, as I have the very first point in my slide, that birth of the daughter is not material. What is material is whether the property was partitioned or not at the time when the claim is being made. So if the family property was not partitioned, then the daughter will have a right for the asking for the share as a co-partner. Is that clear?
Yeah. Another question for you, Viralji.
Ah.
How can daughters claim? How can daughters claim the right in a flat where the son is living with his family? Can she force the brother to sell the flat?
Yeah, see, of course the facts are not clear, but we can presume certain things. If father has purchased the flat in which the entire family was living, when after marriage of the daughter, she goes to her in-laws place and the brother continues to stay in the flat. As far as the ownership of the flat is that of father, and as far as the father has not blended this property with that of the family property, then it is a self-acquired separate property for which he has got two options. Option number one, if there is a will, it will be testamentary succession as per the will. If it is given to the daughter in the will, then naturally she has got a right to ask the brother to vacate the place and the argument of the brother will not survive. If there is no will, that means if there is no testamentary succession, then in case of intestate succession, all the class 1 relative, where the daughter and son are class 1, wife is class 1, and mother is class 1. So all of them get equal share, and therefore it's a question of facts whether the brother will be asked by the court to vacate. But the fact remains that everybody has got vested with the equal interest. Everybody in the sense class 1 relative who have got vested when the father breathed his last. This is on the presumption I am giving the answer that father has self-acquired this property, where the family, including the son, now is living.
Okay, there's a question for Vipul Bhai. Can a person who doesn't know to read or write in English, but can only sign in English, and has not mentioned in the will that I understand the language, can the will be challenged?
No, these are all challenged. It could be challenged by whom? The other beneficiaries, right?
Yeah.
So if it is challenged, in case of challenge, if this is not written, it would become difficult to justify. I mean, you have to adduce another evidence to prove that the person has made a will with the proper understanding. It is not that if it is not mentioned, it will always be challenged. Challenging is always subject to the other beneficiaries. If he feels that he has been deprived of, and he feels that my father cannot write like this and something like that, then only it will be challenged. Otherwise, suppose everybody knows that my father has made a will, though he was not knowing English, and it is as per everybody's acceptance, there is no question of challenging. These are the important things which you should take care that if at all it is challenged, you have some explanation available for that. So it is not that if it is that line is not mentioned, it will be definitely challenged.
In fact, Aslam bhai, if I add to this particular answer, Vipul bhai, the signature doesn't mean that the signing of the name. It can be a sign also. And that person is not capable of signing, he can indicate to the witness that please put your mark on this. That is also is a attestation.
Exactly.
If there are two wills and the last will gets disabled or disallowed on grounds of suspicious circumstances by an order of the court, then will the previous will come into effect?
No, certainly not. Ultimately, whatever is valid is the last will only. So if last will is treated as invalid by the court, then it will go as per intestate.
Okay.
Because when you are making a last will, you are revoking the earlier will. So there is no question of earlier will existence only. Whenever you are making a last will, the all earlier wills are revoked only. So there is no question of restoring back that the will which was already revoked. So if the will is treated as invalid, it will go by intestate succession as if there is no will.
Okay. Last question now. I think we'll have to bend up because questions are keep coming here for Hiral Sutar.
Yeah.
Hiral ji, the question is if the property is partitioned after 2005,
Yeah.
whether it can be challenged or is it in violation of Supreme Court judgment?
See, the violation and all this issue crop up only when there is a dispute about it being partitioned wrongly. Say, for example, it is a partition and the daughter has not demanded the share as per her right. Then she can raise a question that it has been wrongly partitioned and I had a right in the property. Because as a co-partner, born after or before the amendment also, the daughter has been made the co-partner. The important date is 24 December. If any partition, anything has taken place before 24 December 2004, then that cannot be open. Here the question is, it is partition later on. If it is partition later on and that will amount to unequal partition, as I understand, which may be questionable under the direct access law. As far as the Hindu law is concerned, if at the time of partition after 2005, some share is not given to one co-partner or given to other co-partner, it can be challenged on other grounds. But that partition is unequal partition. And that is okay as far as the Hindu law is concerned. There need not be equal partition among all the co-partners in the family.